in late 2024 or almost 2025, it's safe to say that the stock market is very different. In specific, there's lots of different ETFs and even stocks that yield much more than traditional investments. Now right here is a list of some of the top highest yielding ETFs across the entire stock market, and you're seeing your eyes right here, dividend yields are anywhere from 176+% all the way in the mid 50s and everything else in between. And although every single ultra high yielding ETF is 100% not created equal, some of these names are extremely risky and I would never touch with a 10-foot pole. There are certain names out there that do yield, let's say north of 10%, even north of 20-30%, that I personally hold on to in my long-term relatively conservative portfolio, and that I believe in the underlying strategy. So in this video, we're going to go through 5 of my favorite ultra high yielding ETFs and share with you guys how much just $15,000 invested into each one of these could return you an income consistently. Now again, every single investment out there, especially when you're dealing with sort of the fringe areas in the market, these ultra high yielders are going to come along with some risk, so definitely do your own research. But if you want to see the 5 ultra high yielders and see how much you can earn off of a $15,000 investment, then make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into it. If you are a dividend investor who wants to level up your portfolio, you need to be tracking your dividend income consistently. And that's why I created the perfect dividend tracker that I've used to scale my dividend income up to all-time highs over the last year. Now, along with this dividend tracker, you're also going to receive my A to Z dividend investing ebook, which shows you how I personally started from $0 several years ago to now where I earn over $7,500 per month in dividends. So if you want this tracker and the ebook, go to the first link down below in my description and grab it today. Now, before we go into the first ultra high yielder, SPYT, and talk a little bit about this one and share with you guys how much you could earn potentially off of just $15K invested, I did want to say that every single one of these ultra high yielders do have a positive total return. So even though every single one of these offer massive amounts of income, they also have offered investors, at least historically speaking, a positive total return, and this is since inception. But SPYT, the Defiance S&P 500 income target ETF, is going to be number 1. This ETF is in my portfolio. I do own a small position of it, and this ETF yields around 20% per year. Now, at least that's a target that it's trying to achieve. It says right here, aims to achieve a target annual income amount of 20% in the S&P 500 utilizing options, and it's going to be paid out monthly. Now, if you want to see a deep dive into SPYT or any of these other ETFs in this specific video, I have done deep dives in all these ETFs on my channel, so definitely check that out. But this video, we're going to be going through some more of the math and sharing with you guys what a $15,000 investment could return investors off each one of these. Now, because SPYT, for example, is around $20 per share as of filming this video, and because this ETF has a consistent payout amount at least since inception of around 34 cents every single month. This means that with a $15,000 investment, you could purchase potentially 750 shares of SPYT, which again, each pay out around 34 cents more or less per month, which means you could potentially earn $255 every single month by just buying $15K worth of this one. The next ultra high yielder that I am definitely a fan of is SVOL or SVOL, the Simplified Volatility Premium ETF. I've talked about this one a lot on my channel, and I like the fact that this ETF utilizes a portion of its underlying holdings to short the volatility index, but then also buys into things like bond ETFs and sort of more or less conservative options. Now, SVOL costs around $22 per share as of filming this video, so that means with a $15,000 investment, an investor could potentially buy into around 681 shares of this one. Now, because SVOL does have a distribution rate of anywhere from 30 cents to 28 cents, and then now as of recently, it dropped again to 27 cents per share, which even though it's lower than the most recent, is still offering investors around a 15% yield. This means that with a $15,000 investment into something like SVOL, an investor could earn around $184 every single month in income. The next ultra high yielder that I've been talking about a lot more as of recently that I do also hold in my portfolio is ZVOL, or the Volatility Premium Plus ETF, which this ETF strategy is to 100% short the volatility index. Now, this basically means that as long as the volatility in the market stays somewhat calm, this ETF will probably do pretty well. But of course, if volatility spikes like crazy because this ETF is shorting it, well, we're probably in some trouble. Now, this ETF, as you saw, offers around a 31% distribution rate, and at least since inception so far has paid investors around 48.5 cents every single month, more or less, which is massive. Now, because this ETF particularly cost around $22 per share, This means that a $15,000 investment into ZVol would buy you once again around 681 shares. Now the difference between this one is it offers a massive yield or massive amount of income every single month. And again, all these amounts of income every single month can change. A lot can happen. We're just going off of historical numbers, just theoretical numbers to see what the potential of just 15K can make. Now, because with $15,000, we could buy potentially 680 shares of ZVol and it pays around 48.5 cents per share. That means that with a $15,000 investment, we're talking $330 every single month as long as nothing would change with this one. Now, the next ultra high yield that I'm also a fan of, I don't hold on to any of this one, but I've definitely considered it, and I like what I've seen so far, is QDTE, or the Innovation 100 one-day till expiration cover call strategy ETF. And it says right here, this ETF utilizes a synthetic cover call strategy that seeks to provide current income on a weekly basis. So with this one, you don't even have to wait to get paid out on a monthly basis. You get paid every single week. Now, the distribution rate for QDTE is 25.79%, which isn't the highest as far as the ultra high yielding, but this ETF strategy is pretty sound. And like I said, at least so far, so good. Now, the distribution history for QDTE is sort of all over the place. Some weeks it pays 22 cents per share. Some weeks it's going to pay upwards of 25 cents per share, or even as of recent, we saw over 31 cents per share in early July. But even if we were to average things out and say that on average, this ETF pays investors, let's say $1.30 per month. For an ETF that costs around $42 per share, that means that we would be able to purchase around 357 shares of QDTE with that $15,000 investment. Now let's just say that we're earning around $1.30 per month. Of course, this could be lower or higher moving forward, but that's over $400 per month in income. Now, last but not least, this is probably one of my favorites out of all the ultra high yielders, Coney, or the YieldMax Coin Option Income Strategy ETF. Now, a few things in this one. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of YieldMax ETFs. I own some Tesla, I also own some Coney, some Aptly, and I also own the Amazon one. And for the most part, these YieldMax ETFs have not been the best performers in my overall portfolio. Although Coney, for example, because it tracks or references the underlying Coinbase stock or coin, this ETF has done very well. I'm actually up on it quite a bit, and along with that, this ETF has paid out massive distributions. We're talking as of right now, a distribution rate of 159.4%. Now, the distributions are going to vary when it comes to something like this. This is going to be also pretty highly volatile because of the underlying Coinbase stock, but we're talking $2 here, $1.10 there, $1, even on the lower end of things as far as distributions go, we're talking over $1 per share. And keep in mind, Coney ETF costs $17 per share. Now with this distribution rate, in theory also, it means that if these distributions were to continue to pay out like they have been, at least historically, this ETF would pay you back your entire investment in a relatively short time frame. Now again, ETFs like these ones are very risky in my opinion. That's why I own a very small portion of it. But in the ultra high yielding universe, in the talks of trying to build out a portfolio to generate a massive amount of income, especially with just $15,000 invested, this ETF honestly is pretty high up on my list. Now, because Coney currently costs around $17 per share, more or less, with a $15,000 investment, an investor could potentially buy around 882 shares of this one. Now, the distributions are all over the place. Like I said, last month was $2, the month before that was $1.10, and everything else in between. So let's just average things out at $1.50. Now, with 882 shares this one, with a $1.50 distribution, we're talking $1,300, $1,400 per month in distributions with a $1,500 investment, which is madness. Now, remember, this ETF, along with other ETFs, are not certainly going to pay out the same exact amount, and historical performance does not indicate future performance. So definitely do your own research and look a little bit deeper into any ETF strategy and see if you align with it or if you believe in it. And although across my long-term portfolio, I don't own many ultra high yielders, I own a few shares of this or that across my portfolio. I do think they're fun to play around with a little bit more on the risky side of things. And heck, I've actually seen some investors out there utilize a large portion of their portfolio off of some of these ultra high yielders and do pretty well. But either way, I'll continue to watch a lot of these ultra high yielders, utilize them as a small position of my long-term portfolio, but one thing's for certain, they're definitely fun to mess around with. So now that we talked about 5 ultra high yielders that could potentially earn an investor a significant amount of income, at least potentially, which is $15,000 invested, I lastly want to hear from you guys down below. When it comes to ultra high yielding ETFs, what's your #1 favorite across the entire market as of right now? Drop the ticker symbol in my comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.